Me sharing the program real quick. Next up, we have Brian Skanderbeg. He's the president and CEO of GFG Resources. And Brian, I really appreciate you joining us this morning as well. And just a quick reminder, since Florian presented in German, you have to turn off the German translation if you want to listen to Brian in English now in full audio quality. Also, Brian's going to stay on for questions afterwards, so make sure to save some questions for him once he's done. Brian, thanks for joining us.
So today I'm going to introduce and talk about GFG Resources, and we're a prominent North American-based exploration company focused in Timmins and in Wyoming. For record, I'm a geologist, an explorationist, and an optimist, and I will make forward-looking statements. So when you look at GFG, we're a very highly credible team, management, and board, and we're really focused on putting districts together in great jurisdictions, and we're active in both the US and Canada. What are we focused on? We're focused on finding Tier 1 style systems, and we're being very aggressive whilst we're doing it. So to get the nuts and bolts out of the way first, I'm going to talk about some share structure and cash. Without cash, we can't do anything. So 132 million shares out. We trade on the TSX under the symbol GFG, and we would have a market cap of between 30 and 35 million. Very strong balance sheet with around 7 million cash in the bank. Very strong shareholder base as well. I'm happy to say we're backed by groups like Alamos as our largest shareholder, mid-tier gold producer, 9.9%, as well as a very strong European institutional base with SSI, Gold 2000, and 1875, all being very relevant shareholders. Insiders, still very prominent shareholding, holding about 6% of the company, and I personally would hold over 5 million shares. So we're definitely aligned with shareholders. Looking at the chart here, we've traded about 65 million shares in 2020. This was our discovery in Timmins, and this really changed the company. This is when we announced a very large financing and we brought Alamos in. This was done at a premium to market without warrants, and I think really reset this company. We've traded flat over the last several months, and we've recently broke down with the sector here, and we've traded back down to support. What I can say is we started drilling again in Timmins here. I'm going to talk to you about the details around that. So strong balance sheet. People-wise, this is a great team. We are transaction-oriented. We've executed, operated, discovered, and always functioned in the gold space. Here's a number of companies we've built and sold, and together with our board and an executive team, I think we're set up very, very well to be successful. Now, why exploration and why gold? We've just listened to a talk about what the macro theme of gold is setting up to be, and I think that's very positive. The underlying theme is that exploration and new gold deposits are very rare, and they're becoming exceedingly difficult to find, and those that are found are being found at a higher cost. This is a discovery trend graph. In yellow is the amount of gold that's been found over the last several decades. In red is the dollars that's been spent. So you can see discoveries are becoming rarer. You have to do something different. You have to look harder and look differently. And I think with what you see at GFG, we've taken advantage of the cycle. We've consolidated major belts. We've executed at the right time, applied modern, strong science. And I think we have a great team to unlock the next discovery. I think the end conclusion here is relevant discoveries in this market will be acquired. Now, when we look at our thesis here and why we operate where we do, we're in Timmins. This is host to about 110 million ounces. It's a major gold endowment piece of crust. GFG controls the area in red. Why did we come here? Strong endowment. But also infrastructure, neighbors, and a great jurisdiction to build a mine. Newmont, Pan American, Alamos, and IAMGOLD all operate here. And we are strongly focused on the Pan Gold project of GFG. We're west of Timmins, we're along the Porcupine-Destor Fault Zone, and we border tenements of both Newmont and Pan American. And most recently, IAMGOLD announced the construction decision of Cote Lake. This is a 10 million ounce system down here. This will be in production and construction completed in 2022, and it will drive about a 35,000 ton a day mill. That's within 5 kilometers of our Doré block and within about 40 kilometers of our Penn block. That will lower the cutoff grade. It will change this camp. Now, what does that all say here? Well, it's a high endowment piece of crust. There's neighbors here. There's lots of infrastructure here. I think what it says is relevant discoveries in this belt will be acquired as well. And that's why we went here. We like the ground, we like the geology, and we like the opportunity. So what has GFG been focused on here? This is our pen block. And when you look at here, this is the highway going across to Timmins. Off the right side of the map, you'd be about 20 kilometers from Timmins. Newmont currently trucks about 2,500 tons a day down that highway across our property, exemplifying the need for mill feed in this belt. Now, we put this belt together through 3 transactions in 2017. We acquired a company and did 3 other transactions, and we really felt this was the natural extension of the Timmins belt. I'm drawing what is the Porcupine-Destor Fault Zone across our property for 60 kilometers. That's a major break and a lot of geological similarities to what you see in Timmins. Now, we've focused here for the last 2.5 years, and we've done about 12,000 meters of drilling, and we've unlocked very relevant discoveries already. I'm going to talk to you briefly about Slate Rock and about Nib, our most recent and high-grade discovery. But I'm also going to talk to you about the Deerfoot Corridor and some earlier stage targets up at Broadway and Boundary. Suffice to say, we think there's a couple mines in this belt. We've already unlocked and discovered very relevant high-grade at shallow depths. And we're actively drilling in a very aggressive current program through to the end of 2020. The proof is in the drill bit. Now here you see 71 grams over 8.5 meters. This is what that blip on our share price graph was. This is what the market interested was at Nib. Very high grade shallow discovery announced in April. But if you look at HGM and Crawford and Sewell, these are all high grade economic intercepts returned by GFG over the last year and a half. These indicate the system is working well. This is 100% controlled by GFG, and the rig is actively turning on a number of targets in this belt at present. So I'm going to give you a little more detail on some of the targets now. Specifically at Nib. Nib was drilled in 2018, and in Pen 20-47, we returned 71 grams over 8.5 meters from a 50 meters depth, very, very shallow. We hit subsidiary veins down the hole. We also think there's good scope to grow this discovery. And currently we're completing holes on 25, 50, and 100 meter step outs on strike and on depth. This was a very, very compelling intercept, up to 500 grams in individual assays. Just the visible gold bearing segment was about 190 grams over 3.2 meters. So something to look forward to. This is a blind discovery. It was under about 15 meters of till, and it's in a great geological setting, and we're actively drilling this target at present. Moving to the eastern flank of our belt, this is the Porcupine-Destor location map in the upper part of the map here. So there's a number of targets present here: Sewell, HGM, and Crawford, looking at about a 5 kilometer segment. So we're actively drilling in this program at each of these targets. I'm quite interested in the Crawford target on the eastern end, where we've only tested down to 100 meters depth, but we've had economic intercepts already. HGM has about 20 holes into it, but I'm compelled by the stacked nature of the veining and porphyry-rich mineralization that we see here, and we have a couple holes going into that target. And then at Sewell, and it's an area where we're quite interested as well, and the rig's currently turning there. We're going to talk a little more in some coming press releases about an area called Sewell North. And there's a number of holes going in there we quite like what we see so far. And I think that's an area you're going to see us talk more about. So here's a 5 kilometer segment, 3 specific high-grade occurrences, and it is a focus of GFG's drilling in the second half of this year. Expect some good results here. And we pair those targeting exercises with some earlier stage targets. And we named 3 of them here: Boundary, Broadway, and Slate Rock. And these are earlier stage, but very compelling nonetheless. I'll start with Boundary in the center here. This is a discovery by GFG. 6 new showings uncovered last fall, never been drill tested, about 3 kilometers in strike length, up to 12 grams of gold in outcrop, and a lot of cover around there. We're going to put 4 holes in this target. It's never been drill tested before, and it's part of the current program. Broadway, off in the northeastern end of it, already has about 8 grams and some very limited drilling completed by GFG last year. We're going to step out 250 and 500 meters. These are big, bold step outs that GFG is doing, and they're part of the current program. And then Slate Rock, this is going to wait till Q1 next year because it's off the ice. But strong visible gold, very compelling broad alteration system. And what I can tell you is when we pitched that target to corporates, we had 6 offers to joint venture it. So it exemplifies the quality nature of that target. So these are other targets that will be tested. The earlier stage, but I think these have another discovery embedded in them. So overall, when you see what GFG is doing this year, we're going to spend about $4 million in Timmins this year, and we're going to drill 12,000 meters. And that kicked off in late August here, 8,500 meters in the second half. And if it's a red target on this map, it's going to see very relevant drilling. An aggressive, focused, and high probability program that's ongoing at present. That's half our assets. The other half of the assets are in Wyoming. This is a Alkaline gold district in central Wyoming. It's called the Rattlesnake Hills. It's about $45 million historically spent on this asset and 100,000 meters of drilling. Great geology here, very similar to Cripple Creek and Wharf, and we see good scope to grow it. It's an oxide system. There's lots of 1 to 200 meter wide intercepts at 1 to 2 grams. It's fertile, it's working well. And when we look at the scale of this system, we see good scope here to see, you know, 1 million plus ounces here in a heap leachable system. It was last drilled by GFG a couple of years back, 100 meters at 0.8 grams in a step-out hole. So we see lots of potential to grow this system. Lots of greenfield opportunity too, and this is 100% controlled by GFG. We've undertaken a strategic review of this asset. We're in dialogue with a number of groups on it. We need to find the right partner and structure to advance this. We're having good success in Timmins. We're going to focus on Timmins, and we're going to find the right structure and strategy to advance our secondary asset, a major district in Wyoming. So when you look at GFG overall, look, we're a great company. We're backed by really solid management, 2 district scale assets, a technical team that's found mines before and has an ability to finance. We've already announced relevant discovery in Timmins, and I think we're fully funded for a catalyst-rich 2020. So we thank you very much for the opportunity to present, and I'll turn